Have you ever heard of a tribe whose traditions were so unusual that they completely changed the way you see the world? Across the planet, there are isolated communities with customs, rituals, and beliefs that may seem shocking, mysterious, or even unbelievable to outsiders. While modern society continues to evolve rapidly, many tribes still hold tightly to ancient traditions passed down through generations. From remote jungles and deserts to hidden mountain villages, these communities continue to live by rules and beliefs unlike anything most people have ever seen. So get ready for an eye-opening adventure into some of the world's most extraordinary tribal cultures. Number 20. The Torajan People Death Rituals. No matter what culture you are a part of in the world, death is something that pretty much everybody takes seriously and has a manner of dealing with when that time comes. Whether it's ritualistic burials, mummification, cremation, or even something in between, everyone has something they do for the dead when it comes time to send them into the next life. But if you were to go to the Torajan people of Indonesia, you would find that their rituals for the dead go far beyond just getting ready to bury them. I say that because for quite a long time, they don't actually bury them. After a person in their family or another close loved one passes away, they will dress them up nicely and place them in a burial vessel after they've been mummified. That in and of itself is not all that strange. However, after that process is completed, the bodies are kept with the families. As in, they are literally above ground and next to the family homes. Funerals take place months and sometimes even years after somebody passes away. They do this so that every day they can invite the deceased loved one to their meals. Now, obviously, they don't answer back or eat, thank goodness, but it does imply that they are not forgotten. Eventually, they do bury the bodies, which is good for numerous reasons. But they don't actually stay buried. Instead, the families will occasionally dig up the dead so that they can then be cleaned. That's right, they go and clean the dead bodies of their loved ones after they've already buried them. In a way, you could argue that this is just an extension of love, as they're not only keeping the family members close, but also ensuring that they're well taken care of after they're gone. On the other hand, this is really kind of weird, and I couldn't imagine doing that with my loved ones, not just because it would be hard to dig them up after laying them to rest, but it certainly can't be easy on the eyes or the nose. However, this particular tribe doesn't seem to mind, so make of that what you will. Number 19, Spain's La Tomatina Festival. Given the sour taste that the fancy topic may have given everyone, we'll now go to something a bit more fun and tasty. In Spain, they have an annual tradition called La Tomatina Festival, and it's literally the world's largest food fight. More specifically, this is where people truly and gleefully fling tomatoes at each other, so that by the end of the event, just about everyone is covered in red tomato juice. It is actually real, and it's one of the nation's most beloved events. According to the festival's alleged origins, there was a parade going on in Spain, and that's when a food fight between friends broke out. Obviously, they threw tomatoes at each other, and that led to a food fight returning the next year, just in a bigger format. Eventually, it became so big that it was recognized as a true event in Spain and drew not only Spaniards to the event, but tourists from all over who wanted to get in on the food fighting action. It is an annual event that takes place the last Wednesday of August, starting at 11 a.m. The tomato battle typically lasts for an hour, though the festivities may continue on until the afternoon, with street parties, music, and even dancing. So you'll come for the fight and stay for everything else you can do both before and after. To highlight just how dedicated the town is to the food fight, they bring in tons of tomatoes so that everyone who's involved has plenty of them to throw at each other. It may not be a typical thing to see a giant town-wide street food fight take place, but when you really think about it, it sounds like a lot of fun, and it sounds like something that I would love to take part in. Just because sometimes you have to cut loose and enjoy yourself in a wild way, and this is a fun and mostly safe way to do it unless you're allergic to tomatoes. You should probably not go if you are. Number 18. The Festival of Scrambled Eggs. Now we go from Spain to Bosnia to talk about another food-related event, where this time it's the Festival of Scrambled Eggs. But don't worry, you don't have to throw eggs at other people. I'm not really sure that that would be as fun as tomatoes, anyways. To be honest, this tradition is not only about the food, it's about what the food means. The scrambled eggs that are being made are born from a decades-old recipe, and it's made on what Bosnia recognizes as the first day of spring. So these scrambled eggs welcome a new season to the world. Those that follow the tradition don't only enjoy the food, they help to make it. Specifically, there are 1,500 eggs that are broken to help prepare the 40-plus-year-old recipe, and even the host of the festival itself comes in at the crack of dawn to help and prepare the eggs. As we all know, a well-prepared meal is a good meal. Despite the sometimes sub-zero temperatures during the event, thousands of residents living in the town will enjoy the festival by gathering at the riverbank, preparing scrambled eggs, and sharing the meal with family and friends. The celebration then continues on late into the night, with live music, a barbecue, and traditional bathing in River Bosna. To sum it all up, you get to eat, you get to hang out with your neighbors, you dance, and then you take a dive into a river. It sounds like a lot of fun, but you may be thinking, well, why eggs? Well, to the people of Bosnia, an egg is so much more than just an egg. It's a symbol of life and rebirth, and as such, by doing this festival on the first day of spring, they welcome in the new life that is born in the season, and further welcome what their own lives might bring to them. Number 17, Monkey Buffet Festival. Have you noticed that the focus of these festivals is slowly getting more and more weird? I'm noticing that as well as Thailand has the Monkey Buffet Festival, and I'm almost afraid to ask about it anymore because I'm surprised that it hasn't backfired on the people who actually host it. As noted, this takes place in Thailand, and more specifically in a city in central Thailand that has a kind of symbiotic relationship with a bunch of monkeys. And by a bunch, I mean in the thousands. Yes, really, there are that many of them in the city, and the people apparently don't have much of a problem with it. And so, beginning in the year 1989, they started to prepare a special feast for the monkeys. During the 2022 festival, it was noted that 100 tables and 2,000 kilos of food were left for the monkeys to dine on. That's a whole lot of tables and a whole lot of grub. Once the food is laid out and the monkeys come in, it is true bedlam. The monkeys race over to the food and stuff their faces full of it. On one hand, I do kind of get why they would do that, as the food is right there, and it's clearly for them. But on the other hand, the people are just there watching it all, and it's kind of strange. Just as freaky, though, is that the monkeys seem to understand what's taking place, as the attendance by them has grown from 300 to over 4,000. So yes, that is a lot of monkeys that can cause a whole lot of problems, and they keep on doing the festival anyway. Number 16, Polterabend. Thankfully, the next topic does not involve monkeys or food. Instead, we're heading to Germany to talk about a unique twist on the last day before marriage. It's called Polterabend. So what is it exactly? It kind of depends on the couple, their family, and their friends. Along with other people in the village, or anyone who wants to participate, they gather in front of the house of the bride and then bring items that are easily shattered. You know, like porcelain plates, tiles, flower pots, and all kinds of things that can break. Some have even been known to bring toilets. The goal is to break them into shards in front of the home, so that the couple will end up having good luck. Now, before you go scratching your head at the logic of it all, there is actually an old German saying that reads, "Shards bring luck," and a lot of German people and some other neighboring countries endorse this kind of action. But don't worry, they do clean it up after themselves, and the city will sometimes even bring in a dumpster to help with the cleanup as well. In the end, it's just one way of showing affection for a brand new couple while wishing them the best of luck before they go forward in marriage. Number 15, neck rings. Depending on how well-versed you may be in Asian or African culture, you may have come across pictures of women, and sometimes men who have massive neck rings on their neck, and at times it looks like they have the neck of a giraffe instead of a human. The neck ring tradition is easily one of the more eye-opening ones on this list, and it's one that has gotten attention because of how weird it may look to some people. What exactly is going on here? What are these people doing with their necks? Well, for certain cultures, a longer neck is a symbol of beauty, so they put weighted neck rings around them, and over time they add more and more to heighten that beauty. However, despite the way that it might appear, their necks do not actually get any longer. The body below the neck contorts to create that illusion. Simply put, the bones of the clavicle and the rib cage will deform because of the neck rings, causing them to slope and make them seem to be longer. Obviously, it's something that I would not recommend to anyone, but for these cultures, it is their way of life, especially for the women, and it should be respected.
Oh, handmade.
Number 14, lip plates. From one truly strange African tradition to another, if you watched the Black Panther movie, you might remember that one of the members of the council had a massive lip plate that, well, was very big. But is it actually a real thing? Well, it absolutely is among certain groups on the continent. Lip plates among the Mercy and Surma tribes symbolize beauty, fertility, and social status. In fact, it's said that if you meet someone with a truly massive lip plate, they are of a higher-ranking member of their tribe. So if they were to get married to someone in another tribe, they would be almost entitled to a greater dowry. And this isn't just some random whim kind of thing that they do to one another. They actually started at the age of 15 and then slowly work their way up to the massive plates that they wear as adults. As you may have guessed, not everyone is on board with this kind of thing, and it's not really hard to see why. However, the people of these tribes hold it as an honored tradition, and they refuse to let it go. Number 13, England's cheese rolling event. Now we'll go back to food events that are just a little less shocking than the ones from before, and we will head to England, where they have a food event that is both fun, brings a lot of people in, and can potentially kill you if you're not careful. The event allegedly has its origins about 600 years ago. People will stand on the top of a hill with a big cheese wheel, and then it gets shoved down and they chase after it. Because of the hill's slope and the shape of the cheese, the thing can get going pretty fast, so people have to be just as fast in order to catch up to it. So then why is it such a dangerous event? Well, have you ever tried to run downhill without the fear of falling, slipping, or tripping at full speed? That's kind of dangerous. And when you have a bunch of people coming together to try and get one piece of cheese, it means that things can have the potential to go wrong quite quickly. Surely enough, even the police say that the event is dangerous and should not be participated in, but it's also not in their power to stop it. Sounds like a cheesy excuse to me. Number 12, Mexican birthday traditions. The birthday is a special time of year when you get to celebrate with family and friends and do little or big things to make that person feel special for the day. And Mexico has all kinds of great traditions for these kinds of events. For example, there is La Mordida, when the birthday girl or boy's hands are tied behind their back and their face is shoved into the cake for them to take the first bite, while people shout at them. It's unique, and under the right context, it can also mean bribe, so you definitely want to ensure that you're sending the right message. One of the more funny but still strange traditions is that of the piñata, where you give the kid a bat, and then you tell them to mercilessly beat and destroy an animal that's made out of papier-mâché so that you can pull out their candy guts and devour them. Inciting violence and murder at a birthday party, all in the name of sweets. That's not weird at all. Number 11, Battle of the Oranges. The Battle of the Oranges takes place in Italy in a town of Ivrea. The battle is part of a massive festival that's meant to symbolize a rebellion that took place quite a long time ago. There are teams of people both on the ground and on carts, and the point is to try and hit as many people with oranges as possible for your people. There are actually 9 teams of people in this event, and there are rules that go along with it. So it's not exactly a free-for-all like the tomato battle from Spain. Number 10, Gerewol Festival. While all of these have been fascinating in one way or another, only a few of them are truly intrinsic to the daily or yearly lives of the people. In Chad, there is the Gerewol Festival, where you could argue that certain men need to do this festival at least a few times in their lives if they want to find a partner. So then what exactly is this festival? It's actually a male beauty contest. The men who are picked for the festival put on makeup and other things in order to try and woo their partner. Sometimes they're seeking a relationship, and other times they're seeking a wife. Typically, men of various countries will compete in feats of strength to try and impress women. But here it's all about the beauty, and that makes it strange when you compare it to other cultures. Number 9, the Oaxaca Radish Festival. Now don't worry, this is not exactly a festival about throwing radishes at each other that would probably kind of hurt, and I wouldn't support that kind of thing in the slightest. Anyway, this is another unique tradition from Mexico. The Oaxaca Radish Festival is not about hurting anyone with radishes, but carving them into making something that's both unique and beautiful. This festival has been going on for over 125 years, and people get really into it. The irony here is that it all began quite simply with sellers on the street during the Christmas holiday, using carved radishes to try and attract people to their stand. Now it's become a full-blown event that features all kinds of displays, including everything that you could imagine. If you carve it, they will come. Number 8, Chinese foot binding. Given that China has existed for many dynasties, it's not exactly a shock to learn they have a variety of traditions. However, like in modern-day China, you can easily say that some of them are not exactly kosher. Case in point, Chinese foot binding was a practice that was apparently started because of a late empress who had worn a specific kind of shoe to have her foot resemble a moon. The practice would catch on for reasons of status and beauty, and various lotus shoes were worn by women in order to get that effect. Now you may be waiting for the twist. By doing this method, the women were basically condemning themselves to lifelong pain and foot disability. Their feet were misshapen because of the shoes, and that act of wearing them daily meant that they were literally in pain every single day. Women continued to do it for centuries, though, because they valued both the tradition and the status that it gave them. Number 7, Himba women hair. Hair is something that a lot of cultures treasure in special ways, especially during ceremonies where they dress themselves up. However, in Africa, the women of the Himba tribe do something just a little bit different to make their hair stand out from the crowd. That's because their tradition is about applying a special kind of paste, specifically a paste that is made out of butterfat and red ochre. The hair is treated with this paste every single day, and when you see pictures and videos of the Himba women, you can see why a lot of people may be confused as to why they do it. Some believe it serves a practical purpose as the tribe is nomadic and it protects the hair from the hot sun. But if you ask the women, they say that they just like it, and it makes their hair aesthetically pleasing in the end. Number 6, toe rings. When you hear the phrase toe rings, you may think that it involves something in the way of getting your toes pierced, and that could be defined as being a weird tradition that some people would partake in for unknown reasons. But instead, I'm talking about the tradition of some cultures wearing a wedding ring or a band on their toes. One such country that does this is India, where in some wedding ceremonies the husband will actually put a wedding ring on 2 toes, one on each foot. And there's also a legend in Indian culture about a woman who left her toe ring behind so her beloved could find her. Toe rings are worn by men in Tamil culture, usually in a more simple design and for comfort. It may seem like an odd thing to people, but in these cultures you have to remember that they often wear sandals or nothing at all. Number 5, cinnamon hurling. Now, if you thought the weirdness was going to stop, we're heading to Denmark, where a tradition states that if you reach 25 years old and you are still single, you have cinnamon thrown at you. Why? Because it's meant to symbolize how you are not married yet. But it does get a whole lot meaner if you make it to 30 and are still single. They will douse you in pepper. How did this even come to be? Well, it's a tradition that dates back to a Danish salesman who would travel so much that they couldn't get a partner, so they were called the Pepper Man, or a woman in this case, if it turned out to be that way. The good news is that while the tradition does still exist, it is now more of a prank than a judgment by the people. Sometimes it takes a while to find true love, and there's nothing wrong with that. Number 4, to be a man. There is one certain tribe that lives deep within the Amazon rainforest, and they perform a ritual where when a boy is to become a man, they have that boy find a bunch of bullet ants. That alone is dangerous, and then that boy has to wear gloves that are full of the ants for about 10 minutes and do a dance that ensures that he will be bitten by the ants themselves. Now, if you don't know, getting bitten by one bullet ant means pain that is equivalent to being shot with a bullet. That's how they got their name, the bullet ant. Now just imagine being stung by a whole lot of them wearing gloves where you can't get any relief. The point is to show that life without pain is not worth it, and you just wonder why people hate people sometimes. Number 3, the wife carrying championship. Believe it or not, this so-called sport began because of a gangster ordering his men to steal women from other villages. Today in Finland, it's a race that people honestly do with partners or other volunteers to see if they're man enough to do the full race without dropping their wives. The length of the official track is 253. 5 meters with a sand track surface, so it's not exactly the easiest of races to perform, especially when you have a woman on your back. There are rules about the woman's age and weight, and that's way more fair all around for the people who are doing it. People do really get into this kind of thing, and it's even become a team competition. Number 2, frog dance. Now we'll head to Sweden to get our groove on. Solstice festivals are a popular tradition in many cultures, and in Sweden they do the frog dance around the maypole that they erect to help showcase just how happy they are for the changing of the seasons. So why is it called the frog dance? Well, it's for 2 reasons, really. First of all, they do a song about frogs while they dance. And secondly, the dance is actually meant to be about the various parts of the body that frogs don't have, which kind of makes sense, I suppose. But seriously, they do get well into it, as you can see here, and they do it every solstice without fail. Number 1, Partita A Scacchi. Finally, we go to Italy for Partita A Scacchi, which is a living chess game. You see, there was once a 15th century ruler who had to pick the suitors for his 2 daughters, and so when 2 prospective son-in-laws came about, he then told them to go and play a chess game. The winner would get the older daughter, and the loser would get the younger one. The legend of the story captured the hearts and minds of the local people, and so they go and reenact the event by playing a chess game to symbolize what happened in that fateful challenge. Fast forward to these days, and over 700 people, including real horses, participate in this living chess game. If nothing else, it is quite the sight to behold. Well, that's all from the various cultures of the world and the strange traditions and rituals that they're willing to do to each other. Were you weirded out by the various things I showed you here today? Which one of them was the weirdest in your mind?